This is task 1H part 1 and it's the final part, and this is for both methods 1 and 2. Whichever method you followed, you will have a booking form that looks similar to this for the new booking. What we now need to do is look at the validation, which is this bit here. If there are insufficient pitches of the type required, then a message should appear, and we're also going to look at a couple of buttons. So when we put in the quantity, if there aren't enough pitches left, it should come up with an error message to say so. So what we're going to be doing is comparing the quantity with the pitches remaining field from the pitches type table. Now when we created the subform, we included the pitches remaining field in there, and then we deleted it afterwards so that the data is still accessible. So if we go to design view, we should be able to change the quantity here, double click for its properties, go to data, and we can now put in the validation rule, which says that it must be no more, so less than or equal to the pitches remaining, and it's picked that up for us. And then I can put an error message in, there are not enough pitches of this type left. So what we now need to do is test it. So we'll go to datasheet view. Now if you use method 1, this will be blank already. Method 2, we need to go to a new field, so I'm going to put in the porter cabin. I know there's only about 10 of these left, so I'm going to try and book 14, and it comes up with an error message. That's good. Let's try and book about 6 of them, and there we go, it accepts it. So we'll just get rid of that, press escape to get rid of the data. So that's our validation done. We've now got 2 buttons to do. One button is going to be for the new church, and the other button is going to be to process the booking. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this one first, but we want to open up a blank church form. Now there's no straightforward way of doing this, so we have to do a little bit of a fix to get this to work. So we open a form as if we want to view specific data. So like you did one earlier before when you created a button and it would open up the corresponding data, but we're going to do it so that it can't find that data, and therefore it will always open up a new blank form. So we're going to create a button, and we're going to do it to open a form, and it will be the church details form, and we're going to say that we want to find specific data to display. So if we do show all records, it won't be blank. So I'll do specific data to display, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to match the church ID on the form with something that I know definitely won't match. Now the booking ID might accidentally match, so I'm going to choose a booking date. They'll never match, so it won't be able to find a church ID that matches a booking date. Therefore it will open up a blank form. So what we're going to do is call this church details, sorry, new church. Click on next. It's useful to label our buttons something sensible, so I'm going to call it button new church, as if we have to edit the code at any point, but we won't do. We'll click on finish, and we can now test and see if this works. So I'll click on new church, and there we go. Because it couldn't find one, it's filtered it, and it's now a blank form for a new church. So the last bit that we've got to do is a button to process a booking. Now 1H part 3 deals with the actual process that goes behind it. So all we're going to do is we're going to create a blank macro called process booking. Now you'll see that I've got one here already called process booking, but to create a blank macro, you just go to create macro, leave it blank, and then you do save and you give it its name. So what I'm going to do is go back to design view, and we're going to have a button now that will process the booking. I'm going to put it down here, and we go to miscellaneous to run a macro. So miscellaneous, run macro, process booking, and then we'll have the text here to be process booking. And again, in case we need to, but we shouldn't do, but in case we want to get to the code behind it, I'm going to call it button process booking. And all that will do is run an empty macro. So it won't actually work, but it's set up, and it means that you can now screenshot your work. So what you'll do is if you've done method 1, it will come up with an empty booking anyway. But if you've done method 2, you need to click on the new record button to get an empty booking. Make sure that that booking ID is new and unique, and then do a screenshot of this. If you try and print, it won't show the buttons, so a screenshot is going to be best. Okay, so that is your form completed. If you followed method 2, then the only part of 1H part 3 that you'll be doing in the next tutorial is this. The current price must be stored as the price charged. You've already done it, so it will just be about annotating. If you followed method 1, you'll be able to do the whole of this section, and that will be in the next set of tutorials for 1H part 3.